This is Malcolm Reese with TPNewsroom, and I was online earlier today, and I wasn't hunting for anything per se, just doing what most people do, kill time. And I see this clip pop up. It was a classroom. Kids sitting at desks, law enforcement walking in. One by one, the students raise their hand. The officers move through the room quietly asking them, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" They leave and say somebody will be posted outside the door. And right underneath it, in bold letters, all caps, it read, "ICE is raiding schools." There were a lot of comments underneath, some of outrage, hate, anger, screaming, overreach, screaming about everything. And immediately I felt that little pause in my head, that feeling where something doesn't kind of line up with what I'm seeing, because what I'm watching doesn't feel like enforcement. Matter of fact, there wasn't even a single ICE agent in that footage. They were all sheriffs. On top of it, it didn't feel chaotic. There was no one being grabbed or separated. It felt procedural. It felt controlled, like a crisis response. So I did what most people don't do anymore. I stopped. I didn't share. I didn't comment. I didn't screenshot it. I went looking for the content. It turns out the clip wasn't ICE. It wasn't even recent. It wasn't even related to immigration. It was footage from years ago during an active shooter situation. Law enforcement was actually clearing classrooms, checking on kids, searching the building. Same video, completely different story. And what annoyed me wasn't that somebody got it wrong. People get things wrong all the time. What annoyed me was how fast the news story traveled and how many people didn't even hesitate. They didn't ask, they didn't question, they didn't check. They accepted a version that fit cleanly into the reality they already believed they were living in. That's the part that really bugged me, honestly. Because this isn't about one clip. It's not about ICE. It's not about law enforcement. It's not even about immigration. It's about how easily context can be stripped away and replaced with something more emotionally useful, something more shareable, something that doesn't require proof, just reaction. And once I started thinking about that, I realized this conversation can't just be about misinformation. That's too small. This is about systems and incentives, about why certain stories don't just spread, they stick. Everybody wants to talk about the algorithm. Every post, every thread, every podcast, every hot take eventually circles back to the same thing. The algorithm is broken. The algorithm is manipulating us. The algorithm is lying. But that framing lets people off the hook. It turns the algorithm into a villain with intent instead of what it actually is, a machine. Understand, it's a machine that measures our behavior and responds accordingly. The algorithm doesn't think, it doesn't reason, it doesn't know what's true or false, it doesn't know what's ethical or unethical. It measures input, that's it, speed, volume, intensity, duration, how fast people react, how long they stay, how often they share, how much emotion is attached to the interaction, because outrage moves faster than accuracy, and in turn, fear travels faster than explanation. And why do verification when distrust spreads faster? That's not a moral judgment. That's not an accusation. That's just how humans work. If you see a calm explanation, you might read it. You might not. If you see somebody that makes your stomach drop, your body reacts before your brain ever gets involved. Your thumb moves, your heart races, everything changes. You feel something, and the algorithm sees that feeling as value. So when that classroom clip shows up on the timeline, the system isn't registering this is misleading. It's registering reaction, velocity. It's registering engagement spikes, comments, arguments, quote posts, threads. All activity looks the same to a machine. There is no distinction between outrage and insight. In the end, it's all about motion. That's why misinformation doesn't just survive online, it thrives like a weed. Not because the system prefers lies, but because lies are often packaged in a way that triggers stronger reaction than the truth ever could. Truth is slower. Truth needs context. Truth usually comes with caveats. It's boring. Truth doesn't always feel good, and truth rarely arrives as a soundtrack. So the algorithm does exactly what it was designed to do. It surfaces whatever keeps people engaged, and engagement over time has been trained around emotional extremes. Not nuance, not patience, not uncertainty. That's why the phrase "the algorithm is lying to us" misses the point. The algorithm is reflecting us, amplified. It's a mirror with the contrast turned all the way up. If measured, verified information perform better, that's what we see more of. But it doesn't, and pretending otherwise avoids a harder conversation about responsibility, because here's the thing nobody wants to admit to. Misinformation isn't shared because people are confused. It's shared because it feels useful. It confirms something. It reinforces a belief. It validates a fear. It gives somebody a sense of being ahead of the curve, of seeing through the system, of knowing something others don't. That feeling is powerful and it's addictive. You don't just get information more, you get a hit, a rush, a sense of purpose. You're not just consuming content, you're participating in a narrative. And once participation becomes the goal, accuracy becomes optional. That's why corrections don't spread the same way. Fast checks feel flat. They don't provide the same emotional payoff. They don't let you feel righteous or alert or morally activated. They just ask you to slow down and reconsider. And slowing down is the last thing the system wants. So when people ask, why would somebody knowingly share something misleading, the answer isn't always malice. Sometimes it's momentum, sometimes it's belonging. Sometimes it's just the satisfaction of feeling like you're on the right side of something, even if the details are fuzzy. And the more that behavior is rewarded, the more normalized it becomes, the more it feels like that's just how information works now. You see something, you feel something, you share it, you move on. That's how context dies. And once context dies, trust doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes slowly, piece by piece, clip by clip, until nothing feels stable anymore. Not media, not institutions, not experts, not even your own eyes. There's a saying that captures this moment. Don't believe what you saw, believe what I tell you. That's the real danger. Not that people believe one wrong story, but that they stop believing the process altogether. Because when every clip could be out of context, when every video could be repurposed, when every image could be synthetic or selectively framed, people don't know what to anchor to anymore. And in that vacuum, emotion becomes the compass. The classroom clip didn't go viral because it was true. It went viral because it fit cleanly into an existing story people already felt was true. It didn't ask anything of the viewer except reaction. And that's where this stops being about the algorithm alone. The algorithm is just the first layer, the machine, the mechanism, the accelerator. The deeper issue is what we've trained ourselves to reward: speed over certainty, feeling over verification, alignment over accuracy. Once you see that, it's hard to unsee it. And it changes how you look at everything that comes across your screen, because the question isn't just, is this true? It's, why does this want me to react right now? And if you don't ask that question, someone else already has, and they're counting on your reaction to carry it forward. Once you get past the mechanics of the algorithm, once you understand that it's really just respond to what people do, you have to really think about the next question. And it's a harder one because it turns the cameras back toward us. Why does this work so well? Why do misleading clips, stripped context, and half-true narratives feel so irresistible? Not just believable, but compelling. Because at some point, this stopped being about information and started being about reward and entertainment. There's a dopamine loop here that people don't like admitting to. Every time you see something that confirms what you already believe, your brain gives a little nod. Hey, you did good. A little hit. Nothing dramatic, just enough to say, yeah, that makes sense. I knew it. And when that confirmation also comes wrapped in outrage or fear or more urgency, the reward is stronger. You're not just seeing something, you're feeling something, and feeling is sticky. Outrage feels like awareness. Fear feels like preparedness. Distrust feels like intelligence, like you're not naive, you're not a sheep. Because you see through the surface level story and understand what's really going on underneath. That's a powerful place to stand. And it doesn't require a lot from you. You don't have to research, you don't have to wait, you don't have to sit with uncertainty, you just have to react, share, signal. That's where this gets uncomfortable, because people aren't just consuming distrust, they're enjoying it. Not consciously, because it provides identity, clarity, and momentum in a world that feels increasingly unstable. Mistrust gives shape to chaos. It explains things quickly. It assigns blame. It tells you who's dangerous and who's safe, who's lying and who's awake. It turns complexity into something manageable. So when a misleading clip pops up, especially one involving authority, children, enforcement, power, all those emotional layers, it doesn't just spread because it's dramatic. It spreads because it offers meaning on demand. And meaning is addictive. That's why simply correcting misinformation really works, because you're not just correcting a fact, you're interpreting a reward cycle. You're taking away something that felt good, something that felt affirming, and replacing it with uncertainty or discomfort. Nobody likes that. Which is why people don't just ignore corrections, they resist them. They argue, they deflect. They accuse the correction itself of being propaganda, because at that point, the information isn't just information anymore. It's part of who they are. And this is where another layer creeps in, the illusion of expertise. We've built a world where access to information gets mistaken for authority. You Google something and suddenly you know. You watch a few videos and now you're convinced you understand the system. You ask AI a question and now you're speaking with the confidence of someone who's been in the field for years. And confidence travels rarely well online. People are screaming at the top of their lungs that their facts are better than everyone else's facts. Not because they verify them, not because they check multiple sources, not because they understand the underlying system, but because the answer showed up fast and sounded convincing. That's the strange part. It's not that people don't care about being right, it's that they confuse speed with accuracy and certainty with truth. They don't double check, they don't cross-reference, they don't sample opposing information. They stop at the first answer that feels right, lock it in, and then defend it like it's part of their identity. And when those facts turn out to be wrong, it doesn't slow anything down. It doesn't hum with the conversation. The conversation just gets louder, because once information becomes identity, correction feels like an attack, not a clarification. It's a threat. If the story is wrong, then the feeling might be wrong. And if the feeling is wrong, then the identity built around it starts to wobble. So people double down, not because they're stupid, because backing down feels like losing ground. This is where trust really breaks down. There was a time when being right carried social value, when accuracy mattered because expertise mattered, when credibility was something you earned slowly and lost carefully. That world wasn't perfect, but there was at least a shared understanding that truth had weight. That weight is gone. Now being aligned matters more than being accurate. Being first matters more than being careful. And being the loudest in the room matters more than being correct. And posting something isn't about informing. It's about declaring, staking your flag. This is who I am. This is where I stand. This is what I don't trust. That's why context doesn't stand a chance against narrative. Context asks you to hold multiple ideas at once. A narrative lets you collapse everything into a single direction. And social platforms reward direction, not hesitation. This is also where authority really collapses, not because institutions suddenly became untrustworthy overnight, but because trust stopped being built through process and started being built through proximity. Who sounds like me? Who feels like me? Who reflects my frustration? That's how random accounts with no background, no verification, no accountability end up competing with, and sometimes outperforming, actual journalists, researchers, experts. Not because they're more credible, but because they're more emotionally understandable. They speak in absolutes. They speak in certainty. They speak in the language of distrust. And distrust feels honest, even when it's wrong. So when people ask why the media can't fix this, the answer is simple and uncomfortable. Media can't fix a reward structure it no longer controls. Once the audience learned that they could get identity, validation, and momentum from distrust, no correction was ever going to outperform that. The classroom clip is a perfect example. It didn't need to be true. It just needed to feel familiar. It needed to echo something people already believed about power and enforcement in institutions. That's all it had to do. And once that echo landed, the details stopped mattering. This is the part that should worry us more than any single piece of misinformation. Not that lie spread, they always have. But the truth now requires effort in a system that punishes effort. Effort looks like delay. Delay looks like doubt. Doubt looks like weakness. So People choose certainty instead. And once that becomes normal, trust doesn't just erode, it fragments, it breaks. Everyone ends up trusting different things for different reasons. There's no shared baseline anymore, no common frame. You don't just disagree on conclusions, you disagree on reality itself. That's how you end up with people watching the same clip and seeing completely different events, not interpretations. They see completely different events in that same clip. And when that happens, the argument is already lost before it starts. At this point, the easy thing would be to offer solutions. Media literacy, better moderation, smarter algorithms, more transparency. All of that matters, but none of it works if the underlying behavior stays the same, because the real issue isn't that we don't know who to trust anymore. It's that we stop rewarding the habits that make truth survive. Verification is slow. Pausing feels boring. Saying, "I'm not sure yet," doesn't work well. But those habits used to be the backbone of trust, and now they feel almost out of place. Relics from a different era, maybe. So the question isn't whether misinformation exists. It always will. The question is what we do before we participate in it. If you see something and your first instinct is to share it immediately, that should be a signal not to ignore it, but to stop. To ask why it wants you to react so fast. If something makes you angry instantly, that doesn't mean it's wrong, but it does mean someone understood exactly what button to push to get you to react. And if you find out later that something you shared wasn't accurate, the moment that really matters isn't when you delete it, it's whether you reflect on why it worked on you in the first place, because that reflection is the only thing the algorithm can't automate. The system thrives on speed. Truth survives on restraint. And restraint doesn't look impressive. It doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't earn applause. But without it, everything becomes performance. So maybe the real work isn't rebuilding trust in institutions or platforms or media brands. Maybe it's rebuilding trust in process, in patience, in the idea that not every reaction needs to become content. That doesn't mean disengaging. It means choosing when to engage. Because the moment you stop reacting automatically is the moment the system loses grip. And in a world where everything is engineered to make you feel first and think later, that pause might be the most radical thing left to do.